Good evening, everyone. My name is Tracy Polson. It is August 13th, 2019. I'll be talking to you tonight about the Jane Addams Hull House, which is our final project in Concordia University's Public Program Evaluation Class MBA 646. Our instructor's name is Dr. Lawrence Montiel. So I decided to take a little different approach to this final project, and I selected the Jane Addams Hull House, which is an organization that is no longer in existence. It ended operations in 2012, so it did make gathering current financial statements and things a little more challenging because those things are not readily available for someone to get and review. The Hull House started as a concept by Jane Addams in the 1890s. Hull House started as a settlement house, and that idea is that educated and skilled people would live in the Hull House. They would live in the settlement house, and then they would provide training and classes and supports to people in the community. The Hull House was located in a part of Chicago, Illinois, that was incredibly poor and incredibly rich in immigrants. So it was a very diverse community. It also presented some unique challenges with understanding different cultures, some of the other issues with socialism and racism that were happening then were certainly challenges in working in those communities. So the settlement house, the Hull House, became a unifying part of the experience. The representatives from that house provided education and literacy. They focused on citizenship and teaching people about what it was like to be an American, as well as providing supports to women and children, which is something that became kind of a lasting legacy of what they were doing. It also became a political hotbed for issues related to the civil rights movement, women's rights movements, suffrage, and later on some of the anti-war and peace demonstrations as well. Jane Addams herself was a very provocative member of history. She created what I believe to be some of the modern beliefs in the values of social work. She's someone who's regarded all throughout the country and in history for her contributions in providing advocacy work for people who needed advocacy. And you can learn more about Jane Addams at www.janeaddamsmuseum.org. It is located on the campus of the University of Illinois in Chicago, where some of the original sites of the Hill House properties were actually located. So, as I said earlier, Hill House fell into some of the same symptomatic issues that a lot of nonprofit organizations find themselves. If the Hill House were, as I was conducting my assignment, what I decided to take on was the approach of what I would have advised the Hull House to do if they weren't closed. One of the issues right off the bat was that their mission statement was incredibly obtuse. There was no clear definition of what they did because it sounded like they just kind of did everything and anything. And I think that was also symptomatic of their, they stopped focusing on services that were serving their mission, and they started changing their services to serve their funders, which is a big challenge. So one of the things that I would advise the Hull House to do would be to minimize that mission and to focus on the very concrete and essential things that their organization can do. So the mission statement, as I'm suggesting it stands, is the Jane Addams Hull House Association improves social conditions for underserved people and communities by providing creative, innovative programs and advocating for related public policy reforms. So there is the ability for the organization to still do the direct service things that they like to do, to have a presence in the community, but then also to still have those higher level supports going on, the advocacy for those organizations and different policy meetings to support the development of programs on a national and state and local level. So it allows it to retain its identity while still providing those direct services that it was always known for doing. This is a lot more specific and clear to what they should be doing. It doesn't mean that those other funding sources aren't appropriate, but what it does mean is that whenever we seek out funding, it will match this mission. It'll be mission driven as opposed to just funding driven. The other thing is that with the organization operating with such a huge dependency on government funds, that creates a lot of dependency on things that aren't dependable. So I would recommend that the organization focus on a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 split of its funding to really focus on first third is on that funding, seeking out really innovative grants, whether that be grant funding or foundation funding, and the other third is fundraising. Jane Addams has a lot of name recognition that was never capitalized on at any point during the organization's existence, which is crazy. So there are some very influential people that have been involved in Whole House. There were lots of children and families served out of that community that were able to now be influential members in different and other circles. So we should capitalize on the opportunity that Whole House has provided those people and to garner some financial support. I believe that the recognition of the organization has that. The other piece of it is generating income. The organization owns many different buildings and has a lot of different assets that may be able to earn rent or other types of interest if they're invested wisely. So I think that analyzing those resources and figuring out the ways that the organization can make money based on utilizing those resources is another way to fill in that 1/3 gap. So the other piece of it is the public policy evaluation. You know, it's really important that this organization, or would have been really important for this organization, to do some intensive research in finding out what their customer base wants and needs, and whether or not the Whole House was meeting that. So I recommended an intensive mixed method evaluation that would give the board and give the leadership of the organization the opportunity to find out what they did right and what they need to do moving forward based on the people who are the most impacted by it. So learning that information will help the organization continue to fine-tune that mission and the services and know how to stack up those funding sources so that they can continue to do what they're supposed to do, which is meet the needs of the people in the community.